Welcome. Tiny Hands Big Dreams, here on the homestead at the edge of the Amazon, off-grid. So, we're going to do a little bit on solar again. We did another video, and we talked about kind of all the things to think about when you're setting up your own solar. This one is, what would I do differently? So, we've been here for, we're 18 months now, purely on our panels. There's no wires anywhere near here. We're in the middle of nowhere. We're playing on the hard setting. What would I do different? Would I set it up different? Would I buy different panels, different inverter, different batteries, more or less? This is kind of an important question, and you need to go through some a little bit of just thinking about your own situation and how to do it differently, and maybe I can help you by telling what I would have done differently. Now, this is a very interesting special case scenario where we are. First off, it is cloudy. It is cloudy all the time. Right now, I couldn't tell you where the sun is. So, my array is, by its nameplate, 4 kilowatt. If I go by what its maximum typically is, that's 3 kilowatt. On a good day, it sees 3 kilowatt on average. If the sun is especially bright, I see 4. If the clouds reflected and it lenses just right, I have seen more than 4, possibly 4,500, possibly slightly more, which is interesting when you're setting up your solar breakers and some of the wires. You have to plan for a little bit of overage, more than the panel maximum. Now, let's see, these panels were Santan, company out of Arizona. Bought these used. I was told they were 10 years old. They're 250 watt panels. They've lived out in the Arizona sun for a good 10 years already. That being said, they're in fine shape, and they do really well. And for the price, it's kind of hard to beat them. I think I paid less than $50 a piece for these. Would I use different panels? Maybe. One of the most important things I've found is we typically have, sometimes in the morning, I will get some good sun, and then clouds through the midday. And then as I hit about 3, 4 o'clock, sun's over there, the clouds go away, and I have great sun, but the panels don't pick it up. So you have your angle of, the angle where the sun hits the panels. And some panels do slightly better. Now, it's a difficult thing to find on the information packets, on the spec sheets, but sometimes they will put a special coating on to help it, or it'll put a textured glass, and it has to come in with the sun hits the glass and just reflects. So when the sun is directly overhead, you have your full efficiency. Straight up and down is perfect. The more it gets off center, the more you start to get the sunlight bouncing. And on these, if I get 30 degrees off center, they pretty much give up. We're down to 10% of what they're supposed to do. So the morning sun and the late afternoon sun, I sort of just lose. And that's sort of sometimes my best sun. So on a full cloudy day like today, I was just in there. I think I'm picking up off the whole array 600 watts. It's not really enough. And we have days like this, and sometimes they're even more cloudy. This is an extreme example. Now, we use, on average, for our little homestead, about 8 kilowatts a day. It's a big, huge, beautiful commercial refrigerator with a glass door, because, hey, why not? We have a chest freezer, we have all of our lights, we have electric fence for the animals, computers, things, other little stuff we plug in, that kind of thing. So 8 kilowatts. Now that means on a good sunny day, my panels putting out a typical 3 kilowatts in 2.5 hours will fully refill the batteries from our usable range. Now the batteries are 11.5 kilowatt hour. 11.5 kilowatt hour is the total range. Usable is slightly less. They're lithium ion ferrous phosphate. Gosh, that one always tongue ties you, doesn't it? LiFePO4. the normal prismatic lithiums that are being sold today. And I built the pack myself. And that's doing fine. But 11.5 kilowatts, what does that get me? Well, I can't really use the whole thing. I leave the bottom 10-15% off. It's not good to delve into the very depths of the battery charge. The top of the charge, the way the charger works, it charges to its peak voltage of the battery pack, and then it backs off a few percent, and then it cycles in there for a while. So it only actually tops out once, and after that it only gets to 96%. And I'll pause for bugs. So would I do different panels? I don't know. It depends. If I could have found good specs that gave me a wider area of the incidents, maybe. Are they all pretty close? Likely. Is the price difference going to be grand? Probably also. For the price, these are hard to beat. In fact, you know, you could buy 3 of these for the price of a new one. I guarantee the fancy new one is not 3 times the efficiency. So that, but there's also wiring. There's mounting. I have steel that I had to put up. There's that. Now I am going to make a change somewhere in the future when I get around to it. I'm going to take my 3 rows of panels, and I'm going to set these at the morning sun. I'm going to set these at the afternoon sun. I'm going to leave the centers flat. I should be able to get 2 panels all day. So in the morning, I get, as it comes on, the bottom just starts to, and the side is in full view. And as the sun goes up, I get past 30 degrees on the inner panel. The middle is then in full sun. And as this one loses it, this one starts to pick up. So I'll basically get the better part of 2 rows for a longer time. And then I'm going to actually add out either 3 or 6 more panels off the other end to compensate for being in such an extreme environment. I do have some more panels, so that's not a big deal. It's just having to weld up the structure and rewire it and play with it. So that's what I would do differently on the panels. Battery. Now I bought Eve 230 amp hour cells direct from China. They seem great. I built a pack myself. I've seen some quality issues with the pre-built packs. There's also a cost issue. Looking at it, there's still a significant cost savings to build your own, but you have to have the knowledge base to do so. You have to know how to pack them, how to set them up. There is the slight issue of expansion they have. If you just put rigid bus bars on them and the cells expand and contract, you're actually putting stress on the terminals. There's been a few failures there. So they have to be held in compression so that they don't stress out their terminals. I have thin neoprene sheets, like wetsuit material in between mine, so that as the centers breathe a little bit, they actually can breathe into each other without fanning the packs. And the whole thing is under compression. It's a great system. It took a bit of time to build. I built the whole thing out of golden oak because I had some. It's gorgeous. Let me put a picture up real quick. Is that necessary? No. I debated it might be a coffee table at some point. I really would have liked 50% more. Just because of, again, we go sometimes several days. I don't have sun. I would have liked a little more battery. We were on a big cost constraint when I built the pack. I want to say it was 100 and something a cell. By the time I was done, I was probably about $2,000 to build the pack. The best price that I found locally is about 5 or 6 for the same size. In some cases, it's 8 or 9,000 for that same size. So, depending on where you are, there could be a cost savings. I would have gone 50% bigger. So that's panels, that's batteries. What's left? Well, we have the solar charge controller, Electrodacus unit. This is a bit of a different one. It's not your typical MPPT or PWM. These panels are voltage matched directly to the batteries. I have 24 volt batteries. They sit at like 27 and change typically. The panels are 36 open circuit, and their maximum power point is somewhere about 28, 29, which is actually really close. So I sort of sit at the maximum power point of the panels, just natively to the battery. So the Electrodacus system is a little controller, no power goes through it, and then there is some relays. When it says charge the battery, it just clicks the relay and dead shorts the panels to the battery. No muss, no fuss. The electronics are simpler, therefore, and the thought is that since the charge controllers have a life expectancy 4, 5, 7, 10 years on a good one, that there may be a less chance of failure with that system. I like it. It also allows me diversionary load. So I can take direct DC power and divert it when the batteries have filled up. So that system is planned to be hot water. I was going to put an electric hot water tank in line with our hot water system, and I was going to preheat water with my extra power going into the hot water heater. So therefore I would use less energy of that. And if there is plenty of sun, then I wouldn't even need the secondary heater. Again, when we get our next house built, that's kind of planned in the future, but that system allows that, and it allows it without the inverter being part of the process. Now, the inverter. Victron Quattro, 5,000 watt, 24 volt. Everybody said go with Victron, you know, pay now, cry now, don't cry later when the cheap Chinese thing fails. That being said, it's not perfect. First experience, the box arrived, and of course UPS chucked it around a bit, and while the unit wasn't damaged from the outside, it was damaged from the inside. So they put these big toroidal transformers on the left and right walls. So when the transformers pull on the side of the casing, when they chuck the box, it literally, it's aluminum box. It's a very small mounting point. That transformer, like a dead blow hammer, pulled and it dished in the sides, on both sides. They threw it so many times that it literally just crushed in. I'm like, oh God, it's super damaged. I don't have time to get another one. We're packing the container. We got to go. I didn't think about something like that. It's an engineering failure. The sides weren't strong enough to handle the loads of shipping. So I opened it up. There's no actual damage. The transformers moved in. They were very close, but did not actually touch anything. So I disconnected them, pulled it back out, remounted everything. That part's fixed. Now, it has some weird behavior on charging. As an inverter, it does great. Handles everything, no muss, no fuss. Under charging, I don't even understand sometimes. Sometimes it just won't pick up the generator. The relays will just go click, click, and let go. It's a Honda generator. It's inverter based. It's got really clean power. And sometimes it'll do it 4, 5, 6 times in a row. You unplug it, you wait 30 seconds, you plug it in. Does it just click and engage and transfer the loads, or does it, you know, give up? It says it's rated for way more of a transfer load than I'm doing. I look at it, I'm like, I'm at a few amps of transfer load. It's really kind of tiny, and it gives up. Now, if I go through and I depower the inverter and I turn it off and I repower it up and I plug it, and as it's plugged in, then I plug in the generator, it picks it up every time. This is a weird intermittent problem. I can't even find a solution in the forums. It's just not perfect. So what I get it again. I mean, the thing has great power. It powers my big tools, my table saw, my planer. It runs everything that I need to for like woodworking. The fridges, doesn't hiccup. It is apparently marine rated, which for our humid environment is very good. That is something to worry about. We have lost a lot of electronics in a very humid environment. The laptops have lost their keyboards, have stopped functioning. Trackpads stopped functioning. Kitchen scales, humidity somehow inside, they stop functioning. We're losing a lot of electronics here in the humidity. So, being marine rated in high humidity, not to be overlooked. I don't know if I'd do it again. There's some other ones out there, honestly, that are pretty good cost, sometimes cheaper enough that I could do 2. Having a spare, gosh, I would love to have a spare for peace of mind. So that's what I do different. I'm going to optimize my panels for my local conditions and add a couple more, and I'm going to be silly overpaneled by normal standards. I would have gone with a little more battery pack. Again, it was a cost constraint. We didn't have the money. So, does it work? Yes, it works. We have power. It does actually work. I would just liked to be a little bit bigger. And then the inverter is a question. There's some nice all-in-ones that are the charger inverter all together. Gosh, sometimes that looks pretty attractive. Would have been a lot less wiring work. So that's what I would have done different. Hopefully this applies to something that you're doing or looking at, and hopefully it answers some questions. I'm happy to answer questions in the comments. Subscribe, and you'll get to see, when we do updates and things like that. Hope you enjoyed it. See you for the next one.